Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. This is Funny Wine Girl, Janine Luby. And okay, so I'm recording this in November, but this is airing the first week of December. So, of course, December. I don't know if you've heard it, but I've heard Christmas songs on the radio for honestly, I want to say like 2 or 3 weeks. Normally, I think some of the radio stations would start like the day after Thanksgiving. This year, I did think it was slightly earlier obnoxious at this one 92.1, I don't know, a QFM or something. I don't know what it is called. But after like their morning show, they've started with the Christmas. So I thought that was a bit early. But now, of course, at this point, December 7th, we are way into it. Decorations, movies, everything is out there. And yes, I know not everyone celebrates Christmas. I want to acknowledge that. I don't want to be rude. We have Hanukkah, we have Kwanzaa, we have Ramadan, we have lots of wonderful celebrations. Festivus for the rest of us. That's one great holiday as well. And maybe some of you don't celebrate, and that's okay too. So, this is going to be a fun conversation. We'll probably pepper in some seriousness just because, but it is my serial guest. You know her, you love her. She's been on here more times than I can even remember at this point. Welcome to our favorite Pittsburgh comedian, mental health advocate, children's performer, and all around kind human being. It's Gab Bonesso.
Hi, Janine. Thanks for having me back. Hi, listeners. I'm sorry if you are like not Gab again.
Well, I'm going to start off with a shout out to my pal. I asked him, Oliver, number
Yep.
one fan. I said, I'm going to record tonight with Gab. Do you have any questions or anything you want me to ask Gab? And because I thought he might. And he said, no, just tell her I love her. And I said, I will definitely tell her that.
Yay. I hope we all get to go to Jersey Shore together. That's still something I'm dreaming of.
That is awesome. Well, it's funny. He was last time you and I spoke in October, and we talked about Halloween movies. I told you he was on my shit list because he had not been listening like every week to my
Yep.
podcast. So he's been catching up, and he's so cute because he does send me, you know what? And again, he's like, trust me, I'm not just blowing smoke. He goes, I don't do that. I genuinely enjoy what you're doing and all this stuff. And he sends me these little critiques. I love it. But when he listened to our episode, he's like, oh, so I'm on your shit list, huh? I'm like, I was wondering what you'd think about that. But he did say, he goes, I would love to go to Pittsburgh because I was saying we need to get him out there. He wants to ride those rides. Is it Kennywood?
Yes, Kennywood. I think he'd love it. He would love it. And Pittsburgh's a really cool, like I love my little city. It's a good city.
I've been there. Well, let's see. I was there twice, or no, maybe three times. Once was for Pittsburgh, the baseball game, the Pirates, right? Pirates.
Yep.
That's it. Okay. The
PNC Park
Pirates.
there.
What's that?
Was it PNC Park or Three Rivers?
It was PNC Park. Yeah,
Okay.
it was the baseball. I just couldn't think for a minute the Pirates. And I should know that because my cousin, Max Kranick, it was actually the pitcher. Now he's like backup pitcher, I think. But he right when he was like straight out of the gate, he was having an awesome time, a couple of great games. And that was maybe 2 years ago. I think he was out.
Oh,
Yeah. So Max Kranick, yep, that's my cousin. But yeah, we were there for a game, and then I wasn't. My one friend Kristen works for Highmark, so she for a while had to drive there all the time, and I did get to tag along twice. So I did see the cute little Christmas market in that one section. I guess that would be like downtown, like a
yeah,
Kindle
like Market
Christmas
Square.
mart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I went for a run by myself to what section of town was it? It like it had a weird name. Not meat market. No, that's not.
Strip
That's
District.
yes.
Strip District. Yeah, yeah. That's a very like anyone who visits Pittsburgh usually tries to get down there at least.
Yes, yes. And I remember I was out for a run and I'm like, I stopped in this one place, had a little sip of wine. I think I even bought a bottle. I'm like, yeah, this will be fun to run back with. But I
Yeah,
managed to get back without breaking anything, like a hip or the bottle of wine. So that was good.
that's awesome.
But let me ask. So I want to ask a couple basic questions before we get too deep into this. So, how early do you like to listen to Christmas music?
So it was a big bone of contention growing up. My mother, I described her as the Christmas queen. My mother loved Christmas. My mother had a very chaotic childhood. Her happiest memories were always wrapped up in Christmas, even though there was always some kind of, domestic violence situation, but she still Christmas was everything. So when she became a mom, she was going to make it magical for us. So Christmas Queen and I wanted to listen to Christmas music in October. And we got a lot of pushback. So my mother would say that starting the day after Halloween, I could start listening to Christmas music. And then my oldest brother, who moved back when he was in his 30s, he didn't like that very much. And so he would constantly push back, but my mother would hold her ground and I could listen to Christmas music starting November 1st. Yes. So that
Now,
was a long way of saying November 1st.
so once you did that, as they say, break the seal, was it something then that you did like every day until Christmas, or only did you like to say, I'm really in the mood today?
No, it would be excessive. It would be like, we'd have like Sunday dinners. That's a big thing in Italian families. And we'd always have dinner music. So it'd be Christmas music every Sunday dinner starting in November. I was really into Mannheim Steamroller. So there'd be a lot of that, some Kenny G. I tried to make it instrumental. No, loved it. Like Janine, like, I mean this when, like, how they do ugly sweater contests now? Like, that's like a thing. So like when in the 90s, that wasn't a thing. And like, I legitimately wore Christmas sweatshirts that my mother would get through an Avon catalog. One of them had the nativity on it. I would go to middle school in a sweatshirt with the nativity scene on it. And I meant it. Like, I wasn't like,
You weren't being ironic.
No irony. But I was the same kid doing like impersonations from the movie Silence of the Lambs. So it was a real bizarre dichotomy that was going on, and that it still goes on to this day with me and film.
So that tracks, right?
Yeah, it tracks really well. Yeah. So I was a big Christmas. Oh, and I wore the hat you're wearing from elementary school through high school. I would start wearing a Santa hat December 1st till school, winter break. And I would get bullied on the bus so bad. This kid, Randy Reed, would steal my Santa hat and throw it. It would just be a whole thing. But I wore it every day because I loved Christmas and Santa.
Wow, you really do have the Christmas spirit, man.
Oh my God. I wrote letters to Santa all through high school. My father had a come to Jesus moment with me and tell me Santa wasn't real when I was 12. And then my mother told me he lied. Santa is real and don't listen to my father. Lots of stuff, Janine. It was lots of stuff going on. Yeah. I still am not sure. I believe. And I put out a stocking and I live alone and stuff ends up in it. So you figure it out, Janine. I don't know.
So let me ask you there. I was going to ask you about favorite song, but now you're making me, because you brought it up, the whole idea of telling kids that there is no Santa, which, and then you said, you're a grown woman, you still believe. I think there's a difference between us knowing, you know what I mean? Because I think you're believing in the goodness of the season, the spirit, just that magic. And I do believe in that too. But as far as, okay, Santa, knowing as a child he's not real, I will tell you, for some kids, I'm sure it was traumatic. I don't remember. I'll be honest. I have no recollection at all of anyone in my family, since they didn't really, you didn't get told stuff. Irish Catholic repressed family. I'm sure no one told me. I probably heard it at school, but it's not like it was traumatic because I have no recollection of it. What are your thoughts on that, as far as, because I do feel, I will say, especially nowadays with kids, if a kid finds out from all these kids at school, like, I feel like they're going to hear something. In fact, I swear one of my friends said they were talking about it at a CCD class, like a religion class, like that they said it. So it's like different kids are at different levels of maturity, and then that could create even more kind of like sadness or whatever. What are your thoughts on that?
Totally. I mean, I think it is very, individual for the person. For me, I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to know. Like, I remember my sister's 8 years older than me. So she was always giving me books to read. And I think it was Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing or Super Fudge, where the subject of Santa maybe not being real comes up. And I remember her like broaching the subject with me, like, hey, so did you read the book? Any questions you have about the book? And I was just like, yeah, that part where they said Santa wasn't real, I knew was a lie. And she was like, oh, okay. I just was wondering like what you thought. And like, I just would call everyone a liar. And then my mother called everyone a liar. So, and like, truthfully, Ginny, I do a bit about like, they're atheists, and I consider myself the opposite of an atheist in that I believe in everything. Like, I'm just gullible. And so, like, I don't know that there isn't some guy that maybe only for 10 families, he like pops in and throws a present away. I don't know. And I'm not going to say there isn't a Santa Claus. So I still stand. I believe in Santa. It could be a physical man. It could be just a magical spirit. Either way, I'm Team Santa. But I don't like it when like Jamie Lee Curtis went on Rosie O'Donnell. I remember it was like, Santa's not real. And little kids were watching that. And I don't like that. Like, don't take someone's innocence if you can help it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with that. Like you said, if you can help it. Sometimes it's, and then you have some kids who are, maybe their parents told them and now they want to ruin it for, you know what I mean? You have that whole different dynamic there.
True.
But yeah, and you make a good point as I'm listening to, because it's like really, whatever Santa was invented as, and like the history, the folklore, isn't it really about the spirit? And isn't that what he embodies, giving? And if we don't believe in that, then we're all kind of really in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Santa's a bigger concept than just a man with chubby cheeks, I think. But yeah, no, I have a friend though, he's a comedian, he's Jewish, and he does this amazing bit on the war at Christmas. And he's like, stop it. Stop saying there's a war on Christmas. You have every Jewish kid in America. If we wanted to have a war on Christmas, we'd have it. But we take our kids aside and we're like, look, when you go to school, kids are going to be talking about this guy. He's not real, but you have to pretend that he is real. You're going to ruin their Christmas. And he's like, so it's really like, it's a hilarious bit about how like Jewish families are in control of Christmas and they're letting us have it. And it's really hilarious. It's a really good bit. Alan Olafson, look him up. He's good.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a whole different thing. We won't waste our time on the politics of,
Oh,
and I mean, I think I do say Merry Christmas. I don't say it to everyone, but I mean, I don't think, and I think for even on both sides have been guilty of a little bit of nonsense and drama. I mean, I think it's okay to say happy holidays, not just because of the whole idea, oh, you might not celebrate Christmas, but because it extends. I always think it extends into like New Year's, and it's a whole season really. And it's so happy holidays. But at the same time, I don't really feel like I can't say Merry Christmas because that's what I celebrate to people who I know celebrate. You know what I mean? Like that's okay.
and I truly like if my friends who are Jewish were like, hey, happy Hanukkah, I'd be like, hey, back, or like, any religion, if you're celebrating it and you're in the mood and you're feeling it, by all means, like I want you to celebrate and I'm celebrating with you. Like it is a bummer. Like, you know what I mean? Like there is so much, I mean, religion is like the source of so much anger. Hi, we all know what's going on in the world right now. So yeah, it's a real bummer. But yeah, I'm at a point now, and I think you and I talked about it with our cancel culture last in October. Like I can't worry about it, right? Like you're all like I do celebrate Christmas. I'm not going to lie. That's what I celebrate. And yeah, I'm going to say Merry Christmas. But if I
Yeah.
know you wish, I'm going to say, Happy Hanukkah when it's Hanukkah.
Yeah, and we should, and I mean, you just say, and to your point, if someone said Happy Hanukkah to you, it's like, how about even if someone said Happy Shit Day? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
if you're wishing me happy anything with a smile,
there you
isn't
go.
that really awesome nowadays? I'll take
Yes.
that, truthfully.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen. So yeah, I'm team anyone wishing me well, whatever the religion holiday is. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So the other question, it's like a minor question. You mentioned before the music that you did play kind of in the background, this, Kenny G, the steam. Do you have
Yeah.
a favorite song with lyrics now, or even back then, or has it changed? Like, is there one that you like to hear on the radio that you'll definitely crank up?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. That's like it's like you ask, like if I had a million children and you're like, pick one is your favorite. I can't, they're my kids. And I didn't write any of these songs, but I have so many that I truly love and have special meaning for so many different reasons. And like, ones I associate with my father, ones I associate with my mother, one with my brother. So there's just so much, but like I think the one that I know brings me utter joy, the one that I can sing and like lose my voice singing, and it's one that I still to this day enjoy with my sister who is still living and we can celebrate Christmas together. And speaking of Jewish artists, Barbara Streisand's Jingle Bells is maybe one of the most fun versions of Jingle Bells ever. So that one, Rose and I lose our minds singing.
Okay. Wow. I must have heard that, but it doesn't it doesn't immediately pop into my head. Like, I mean, I think, many of her songs do, but I'll have to
It's
look for
very
that on
manic.
YouTube.
Like once you hear it,
Okay.
like, oh, okay, now I know why Gab likes this because it's like jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle bells.
Oh,
It gets like
okay.
psychotic. And my sister and I cannot sing in her range. And we are trying. Like her husband filmed us doing it once, and it's the most embarrassing video of my life. And I've been in way more embarrassing situations, but that's embarrassing. Yeah. So
Okay,
I love that one.
now that you say it, it's in a like kind of a frenetic way or whatever. Like, okay, I got it.
It's psychotic. And I love it. What's yours?
So old school, I definitely like the Andy Williams. I guess it's Andy Williams, like one of those "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas." That's just smooth and comforting. And I know, of course, we want to talk cancel culture. That's brought up through the years. Like, didn't he beat his wife or what? I don't know whether he
Yeah.
beat his wife or not. All I know is when I hear the song, I do feel very comforted, and I think it's a nice song. As far as more modern day songs, I still love Wham's "Last Christmas."
Yes.
I love is it Do They Know It's Christmas? That I just
I like-
because that reminds me all the artists that were involved, and it was a fundraising effort, I believe. And it just makes me think of being in like seventh or eighth grade when it came out, and like the days of like watching MTV and getting excited because I could watch it. So that one has like, I like it, but it also has like nostalgia around it for me. But Last Christmas, I just love. And then I will bring up a controversial one. I'll say controversial. It's not really, but people get mad. They hate on Mariah, but I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I still like All I Want for Christmas Is You. It's just a fun song.
Yeah. It's one of those songs that if it is playing at the mall while I'm Christmas shopping, whoever I'm shopping for is getting an extra present because it just puts me. I'm like, yep. Oh, you need this, and I'm like just throwing extra thing. Like I am so dictated by music when I'm shopping, and that song in particular gets me. Yeah, that'll get me at the mall.
Yeah,
But I
that's
do
a
love.
good one. The Waitresses, that Merry Christmas. I don't know which one. You know the one. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. I
Oh, I
think
do love
dun,
that
dun,
one. Yeah.
dun, dun, dun. That's a good one too, because I think that one kind of makes me a little nostalgic too, that came out years ago, even though it's not like a, real popular Christmas song. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I would say, like in my family growing up, Frank Sinatra, I mean, we're Italian. Frank Sinatra was huge, and his Jingle Bells is also very jazzy, and I love it. But of his music, I would say the Christmas Waltz, that makes me think of my dad. We were huge. I mean, talking about cancel culture, we were big Bing Crosby people. Like we had every Bing Crosby Christmas album, and everyone would be like, didn't he beat his kids? And I'm like, I know,
Oh,
but God,
that's the one. I was getting him mixed up maybe with Andy
man,
Williams,
can that
unless they
guy
both beat
croon?
their families.
Yeah, no, it was Bing. It was Bing. He like was but God, his Christmas music so good. Johnny Mathis. We were a big Johnny Mathis family. I do love Andy Williams. We were my family, so Barbara Streisand and Neil Diamond were big albums in our house. I'm a huge Neil Diamond fan. I love all the classical stuff. Oh, Glenn Miller had a really good Christmas album, In the Christmas Mood. So I like that. Yeah, there's nothing I don't like. Ella Fitzgerald, she's the
Oh,
only person who can do
beautiful.
Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas and make it fun. But Judy's Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. Oh my God, Judy Garland. I mean, that is like, is there a Christmas song that just incapacitates me more than that? No, no. Although Cat Power's version is a close second. I don't even
Another
remember.
good one and again, thinking of childhood, what was around my house as far as albums, Elvis Presley, the I'll have a
Oh,
blue, that one. I used to love that as a kid. I can't say I love it now, but I used to love it as a kid because my parents were playing it. And yeah, so that has nostalgic value for me.
did you guys do a lot of like Gene Autry, like his Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and that stuff? Because we had like a whole Gene Autry Christmas album. And
I
it was definitely in rotation.
I don't know if I definitely remember, and I could even see as I'm talking to you, I see the red cover and the wreath around Elvis's head for
Yes.
that album. And mom had like, Donna Summers and Helen Red, like had all that stuff. I don't, and Elton John, of course. I don't remember Gene Autry, but I do remember, and God, I wish I could find the audio to this. We had an 8-track player and we had a microphone. So maybe this was my start early back then. And my dad would sing, and it was me singing, "Who's that up on the roof?" And I was like 6 singing that. And I wish I could find that. I don't know what the song exactly was, but yeah, but I don't remember any Gene Autry. No, but we did do our own little medley there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Gene Autry was more like a childish, like I think there was like one little, two little, three little reindeer, like very like geared to little kids. So I feel like
Okay.
that was one of my first. Oh, we were really into Mannheim Steamroller too. No, not Mannheim, Manhattan Transfer. We had the Manhattan Transfer. I don't know if you know that vocal jazz group. We were really into them. So we had their Christmas album. And then as I got older, and my mom, I was my mom's caregiver, and it was just the two of us living together for a while, we became obsessed with who now might be considered like the modern day queens and kings of Christmas, an a cappella troupe called Pentatonics. Mom and I got really obsessed with them. Unfortunately, we got like it became mine and mom's thing that when my mother passed, like I was like, I don't enjoy pentatonics anymore. But now I'm in a good place and I can listen to pentatonics. I don't think they're as awesome as I did when it was just me and my mom, but they're great. They're amazing vocalists.
I've heard of them, but I don't know if I'm sure I might have heard a song, but I've definitely heard of them. But I want to switch gears for a second. We'll get a little serious here because I do think it will mean something to a lot of listeners. You mentioned that was your thing with your mom. Before I hit the record button, we were talking before, and it's like, so one thing I want to make note of for people, like obviously there's a lot of pressure out there to make everything the biggest, the best, spend money, do everything, and it's a lot of pressure. And now it's social media, although I don't like to blame social media because I think we have to be in control of things, what we post, what we look at, what we allow to kind of get to us. We can put our phones down, but I said I'm scrolling less because I'm feeling pressure. Like, you just feel like, oh, there's so many events I want to go to. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I want to spend money. But besides that, there are a lot of people, let's take social media out of it, a lot of people who've had sadness, or they're having it now because they're missing someone in their life that is no longer with them. Or maybe they grew up in a household where the holidays were horrible and they're just not a fun time for them. So, let's talk about for a minute. You mentioned about your mom. So, share with us because I know you said before we hit the record button, what is how you've gotten through, what are some ideas, some tips, because it isn't a picnic for everyone. And it's also not that Hallmark greeting card or the Hallmark show that we see. Very few families or people in the world actually experience that. Hey, this is perfect, the airbrushed life that we see. But some people are even experiencing pain and real sadness this time of year.
Oh, definitely. So I, full disclosure, I lost my dad on January 8th. So he was dying all through the holidays. And that was in 2000 when I was in college. My brother passed away on Christmas Eve. And then my mother died in November 8 years ago. And when she was on her deathbed, she said, I can't die now. I'll ruin the holidays for you guys. That was literally what she was so worried about our holidays. We're like, Mom, you are the holidays. Don't worry. Don't think about Thanksgiving and Christmas. Just what you need to do now. So like, yes, when I think of like dealing with the trauma of someone dying, it is so I hear Christmas music, like truly Frank Sinatra's have yourself a little have yourself a merry little Christmas. For the longest time I associated with my father dying, and it would like I couldn't listen to it. Like it was just not even a possibility. It ruined that song for me. Um, my brother's favorite Christmas album was Stevie Wonder, which is odd that like I went the opposite way. When my brother passed away, I was like, I'm just gonna listen to Stevie Wonder. I want to immerse myself in what Peppy loved. With my mother, like I walked away from pentatonics for a little bit, but one thing that I know is true with trauma, and I think, and I spent so long running from this, is we would rather think about our feelings than feel them. And when we do that, it can take us into really bad directions that might not even be true sometimes. We stop being grounded, we stop being present. But if we could stop that and actually just be like, oh my God, I miss my mom. Like I miss her, and feel that. Miss my dad, be angry at how my brother died and still miss him simultaneously. When I can get into that, it can relieve so much of that like negative headspace that isn't even based in necessarily reality. The other step to all of this that has really helped me is I was getting so sad because of all the good memories we had. And if I can sit in that and be like, oh my, I was the luckiest to even have had like one great Christmas with my mom, dad, and brother, and I had 20. You know what I mean? Like way more than one. So I can like enjoy that, know that I got to be the kid who had a million presents on Christmas. I got to be the kid who believed in Santa till they were 18. I got to be the kid, I got a lot of stuff that a lot of people didn't. So I try to sit into my blessings and like gratitude. And then another thing that I did that is kind of like has really helped me is instead of sticking to all the family traditions, I do Christmas on Gab's terms. So I have a pink Christmas tree. I decorate like it's Whoville. Like I go wild. I make it colorful. I make it fun. I go away from the traditional things that I grew up with and make it Gab. And yeah, and it's really just given it this whole new vibe for me, and I really look forward to it. And yeah, I'm in a really good place at the holidays where I wouldn't have said that 5 years ago. So there's definitely hope for growth. And my mother would always say, this too shall pass, and just ride the wave. And this Christmas might be terrible, but next Christmas might not. So, just stay in it and ride the wave.
Yeah, and I love what you said because I was reading some articles about mental health around the holidays for people in recovery or for people with mental health issues or just for people who are struggling. And I love that you said on your own terms. You're creating Christmas on your own terms, because isn't that all that we can do anyway? It's like that, and I just think it's such great advice, or such a good thing to consider. Like, you don't have to do it on anyone else's terms. You do not. You just simply don't. If you're uncomfortable with it, oh, but they're going to be upset. Oh, that's too bad. That is too bad.
It's a shame that we all have to like really suffer to learn that like just to speak up and set boundaries can like save relationships, save anxiety, save depression. It's really a shame. I wish we all like that was the first thing they taught us when we were little kids. Like, no, communicate clearly and your life will be great, because that's just something we are not taught. It's always, I can't say this, or, if they expect me to be there, and it's like, but why, Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of that about like, especially adult children. Like, if your parents are making you feel guilty for anything you want to do at the holidays, please don't take that on. Like, that is not you, adult child. Like, you have to do your own thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. It is, we are not taught the whole situation. And hopefully it's never too late. First of all, I want to say, but hopefully too, younger people are learning that at a younger age, like setting the boundaries. But like so many homes, and we joke about Irish Catholic guilt, or you hear Jewish comedians saying, "Oh, you want to talk our guilt?" There's guilt, I'm sure, in every culture, every family. Not everyone, but like there can be, depending on the situation, or like if you weren't a family that did communicate very well or clearly or openly. That's unfortunate, because it does create all kinds of stuff that you're carrying around. And really, ultimately, what good does that do? Like, I'm going to show up just to make him happy or her happy, or like, my parents will be upset if I don't do this, or my relative. Like, you've got to put your own life first, your own health first. You really do. And so I love that you said doing it on your terms. And also, if I heard well correctly, like, it's not like it happened overnight, right?
No,
So if you've
a lot
just
of work.
lost someone, it's okay if you just spend it being sad. Like, maybe you don't even want to be around people. Maybe you could use that, or maybe you don't. Maybe you just want to be alone for a bit, but it could take time, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the first Christmas Eve after my mom passed, I did nothing. It was just my sister and I think my best friend maybe stopped over. We didn't see it, my brothers, we didn't do anything, and then the next Christmas my brother died. So it's like rats, okay, it really took a while to like find a way to enjoy Christmas. But I did, and it was a lot of therapy and a lot of work, but it was worth it, And that's the other thing I always say to people too, because it's so hard right now, even just to get an appointment. I'm trying to meet with a new a neuropsychologist. I mean, the wait list is so backed up, but like it's worth getting on the wait list. You are worth it. You are worth it. As much as you think you're busy and you have all this other stuff, it's for you and you deserve it. So
Yeah. And and that's a whole different like conversation as far as what's going on with healthcare in this country. It is hard. There is a wait list, but I would say, so if there is, remember that, I know it's hard to convince people, I think, sometimes, but like, if you do have a friend that you do trust and confide in, talk to them so that at least you can unload. Or, I have a friend that I vent to a lot, and I won't even just say vent, because I think that makes it kind of minimalizes it or minimizes it. It's not just me complaining, it's me trying to work through. And I like what he said, because I said one day about, I think, complaining or whatever. And he said, no, you're processing it right now. This just happened. You're saying, how you feel. He's like, you're processing it. And I love that he said that, because, like, it was funny years ago. We talk about doing things on your terms. I remember my Oliver, actually, and I'll shout out to him, when he used to work in retail, and like he had to maybe work on a holiday, or he worked so much that his holiday was his only day off. And I'd say to him, oh, how are you spending? I don't know if it was Thanksgiving, I forget, or Christmas. And he's like, well, I'm going to go see a movie, and I'm going to do this. And here was me, like, all aghast. What? You mean you don't feel guilty? You're not going to go drive to your parents' house? Like, for me, I couldn't understand that. And now, hopefully, as an older, wiser Janine, I understand that's his business. That's
yeah.
anyone's business, how they choose to spend the holidays. And quite frankly, no one should be guilted into doing anything. Bottom line, period. Hard stop, right?
Yeah. And it goes both ways. Like, so like the people who now are like, I'm so progressive and I'm this. Janine, why would you care to spend, the holidays with your parents? Your parents are beneath you. They're from a generation that doesn't even understand. You're like, yeah, but I want to. So that's why I like my parents. How about that? they're two of my favorite people. I want to spend Christmas with. So it goes both ways. Like I find like people, there's so much judgment in every direction. It's just like live your life, be happy, look out for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I'm glad you made that point because it's really like judgment on either by anyone, period, is not
Yeah.
correct. Don't
Oh,
judge people unless someone's literally hurting you, physically hurting you, or they committed to doing something for you and now they're going to leave you in the lurch, they're going to leave you hanging, or they're going to leave you in a situation that's going to hurt you. If that's not the case, don't worry about what they're doing. you know,
oh, I
Move
mean,
on.
I remember like in my 20s having friends who'd be like, "Ooh, why are you going to your parents for Christmas with your over your mom's? Because it's Christmas Eve and that's what we do, and I'm Italian." Oh my God, there's like this great party going. Yeah, but I want to be there. Like that's where I want to be, man. Like, so if you love your family, that's okay too. I know we live in a society where they think you should turn on them, but sometimes they're great and they just made mistakes because they were crazy too. So how about that?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So let's do the improv rule. Yes, and oh, that's where you're spending. Yes, and here's what I'm doing. But okay, it's both. It's awesome for both of us. Yeah.
Exactly.
And for to recap for those of you who aren't having an awesome time, just remember what Gab had said, and I will put something in the show notes as far as like some guidelines or some tips that I was reading too, because I think it is important to know that like you don't have to be happy if you're not feeling happy. Don't put on a smiley face just to, for other people because it's such a joyful time. Know, first of all, that the life that's on, Facebook isn't real anyway. Take a
Yeah.
step away from that if that's causing you some angst or FOMO. Put it down and just do what you need to do for yourself, and know that your friends and loved ones, if they're truly your friends, will understand and can listen to you. But I will definitely put some stuff in the show notes. But anything else on that topic before we move on to a little bit more lighter, sillier topics? Anything else that you wanted to add, Gab?
Well, I'm going to say as soon as we start talking about movies, all the movies I talk about are also like deal with mental health or like or death. Like all my favorite Christmas movies have some level of sadness to them. But I was just going to say I 100% agree about social media and how that can definitely. I don't want to say like I'm just going to say this. I don't know if you have TikTok, but anytime I scroll on TikTok, and I mean it's fast, it's like video, video, second, video, video. It reminds me of any time I've ever had a major mental breakdown, because in the moments preceding the mental breakdown, it is little pictures flying through my head that I'm just like, gah, 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 gah. It literally, you feel psychotic because you are in a psychotic state. And that TikTok does that. Like I start watching and it's like, and then I have this sense memory of going psychotic and I start feeling like, oh my God, I'm going psychotic. I'm going psychotic again. And then no, Gab, it's TikTok. Get off throw the app away. And I throw my phone and I'm like, oh, I'm not going psychotic. But I'm telling you, I think there could be studies done that just the scrolling on TikTok resembles a psychotic break. And I'm really worried that we are like getting into psychotic breaks on TikTok. Okay, that is my piece on TikTok. I think it's killing me.
Well, and not to get too off topic, but of course that's what we live for. That's what we do. Do you watch Black Mirror?
No, I
Oh
don't.
my
But
God. Okay,
okay,
so I think you have to. Okay, I'm not going to tell you what you have to do. Let me rewind. I think you would enjoy it. So there are about 6 seasons, and it's on Netflix, and it's sci-fi ish, but not really because I'm not a sci-fi person. But it's really about the ways that technology are influencing our lives and not always in the best way. So maybe it would cause too much angst. So maybe,
okay, okay.
but it does kind of it shows it almost in a comic, like a satirical way at times, to the point when I was at the gym a couple weeks ago at Planet Fitness. Sometimes I'll do these little Facebook posts like thoughts from the treadmill. And I try to be a little bit humorous in what I'm sharing. But the one show I was watching was called Cookie Munchers or something. It was a food channel, I think. And the guy was a big guy. And some of the other people eating the cookies were big people. But I wasn't listening to the volume, but it just looks so much like a caricature of a person. And it just made me think of a recent episode I just watched of Black Mirror, where it was a very interesting concept. People, their currency was really they had to pedal on bikes, on stationary bikes, and that's how they earned points to do things. And they could earn their freedom by auditioning on this show that was like the X Factor. And it just reminded me of that. And I'm like, oof, gosh, we are so close to the comical, like ridiculous. Like, I don't know, it just made me think of that. But to your point, it does frighten me a lot about our connection with this. And I have the friend that I mentioned that I talked to, that he helps me process things. We've had not arguments, but we've disagreed before, where like he blames social media and everything, and I kind of get mad because I'm like, no, it's individuals, because you don't have to post this crap, you don't have to respond to this crap, because there's tons of stuff I see and I just roll my eyes. And I mean, I will even say whatever it is I need to say out loud to my screen, but then I move on. I don't have to leave them a remark about, oh, you like that? Well, I don't like that. I like this instead. Or, well, that's stupid. I don't feel the need to say that, because one, why? It's their page. This is what they're sharing. And two, what does it matter? Like, just keep moving. Or if it's annoying, okay, stop looking at it. But with that said, we have young people who don't have that same self control, who don't have that self awareness, that don't have reflection. And if parents, and again, I don't want to get this to be like, I'm not blaming parents, but it's been a babysitter for many kids since they were little. And again, not to do another offshoot, but Maya Bialik has a podcast, and she talks about parents who have their children like look at an iPad when they're changing their diapers, and the danger of that, because you're not connecting. That's supposed to be a time when the infant connects with the parent, and they're connecting with a screen. So that, and I know we've talked about this before, and this could be a whole episode, but to get back to the point I was just trying to make, is like, you make a really good point, because, and I worry for younger people who don't have the maturity, who don't have the life experience, who don't know life before the screen,
Right.
that it can be really traumatic on them, many things, whether it's FOMO, whether it's listening to just something there was just something on tonight's news about extremism and how that's reaching kids through their gaming, and it scares the crap out of me, because I feel like we're not trying hard enough to connect as humans. We have to do that, because it's just going to get easier and easier to think less of people, you know.
No, that really scared me when you said that about like the changing table and having an iPad, and that not having that connection with your parent. And just that I do see a lot of like behavior, especially on TikTok. Why am I saying it? TikTok. What is it called? I'm a okay boomer. TikTok. I see like sociopathic vibes, like people who literally are siding with murderers and things that I'm just like, whoa, 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 hear what you're saying. And I'm like, maybe it's just because they don't even they don't know real people. They don't know real consequences. It's really yeah, it's wild. It's wild. It's wild. I said to my sister, and not to like stay on this, we'll move past the internet, but I just said I really feel like it's the internet is showing that it takes a little bit of brains to be on it. And I almost feel like we would with a driver's license, a hunting rifle, you need to get a license to be on the internet. You got to pass some tests. You got to make sure you can like differentiate between real news and fake news. You know what I mean? You have to have a couple skills if you want to be on the World Wide Web. I kind of think we might need to, not everyone gets to be on it anymore, because it's just not well. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Now that's, and then I'll, this is the last thing I'll say. I forget, years ago, I don't know if different people or friends who we've talked about this, where it's like, it has evolved, like technology, these things have evolved faster than we have. And for our brains to be able to maturely, responsibly handle all this, and we haven't been taught that, and we're trying to learn it. And again, not to sound elitist, but there are certain people who use it in a way that's, whether it's meant to be like, look at me, or whether it's meant to be using it to air out their grievances with family or whatever, or to say mean things. Like now with extremism, it's like they're basically weaponizing it. And that's, I mean, the Taliban's already doing that. And like, white supremacist group are doing it now. And like, you have someone who's 10, 11 who doesn't understand. If they're like, are you proud to be white? They could say that to them, and the kid might be like, yeah, I am. They might not realize they're getting into a world of complete racism, complete hatred. And it's just, honestly, it's too depressing to talk about anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's not as fun as watching Elf, which is maybe the
No.
most fun Christmas movie.
Okay. So that's going to be a great segue, because I figured we would talk about Elf. And can I tell you, I'm going to get this out of the way right from the get go. I'm not a huge fan of that movie.
What? You're the first person I've ever met that said that. Holy cow. Wow.
Yeah. I don't, and now
Like about it.
I, and so I'll be honest, I don't know if I've seen it from start to finish. I guess
Okay.
I have. I think I have. But I've been places where it's been on that I've watched it and maybe I'm catching it in the middle. I like Will Ferrell a lot. I think he's incredibly funny. However, he's not someone where I can say, well, there's probably a few people, a few talent, like, talents that I could say I love everything they do. I don't love everything he does. Some of the stuff he does, I'm like, okay, that's too silly for me or whatever. But I do like a lot of what he's done on SNL, a lot of his movies he's been in. I just don't love this. And I think it's cute. I
Yeah.
do. I think it's cute. And is it Zoe Deschanel that's in it?
James
And
Caan,
I
Mary
really
Steenburgen.
can't stay, baby. It's cold outside, right? Doesn't she sing that? So I think it's cute. I don't hate it. I don't dislike it. I just don't love it. And I know people, it's funny because people will go nuts for certain movies. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't say that.
Oh, it's okay. You can.
But
Hey, I've been diagnosed as nuts, so you're allowed to say it. You're my friend.
okay.
I give you permission.
People go ape shit. They go all kinds of like, oh my God, Elf, a buddy. And I'm just not there. Let me just say that. I'm just not there.
I get it. So I was I like when I first started doing stand up, I have a brother who's 16 years older than me that was always like my hero. And when I would do stand up, he'd be like, "Hey, yeah, I mean, you're okay. You're no Will Ferrell though." Like, and that was always, and I know he did it to be a big brother, but I'm psychotic and I took it on. So I'd be like, Will Ferrell, and then I'd see like him on SNL or him in a movie. And I'd be like, he's not that funny. Like it's all dumb frat boy humor. Like I built up a hatred towards Will Ferrell because of my brother. It had nothing to do with Will, just my brother. So all these, I hate Will Ferrell. I wouldn't watch Step Brothers. I wouldn't watch any movie. I didn't watch Elf when it came out. My mother would beg me, baby, please. I'm telling you, I know you don't like Will Ferrell. I know Nick's ruined him for you, but I'm telling you, baby, Elf, you will love it. That is your movie. So one day she finally gets me to watch it. I sit down. And the reason she thinks that I would love Elf is because I am Buddy the Elf. I am the kind of like I lose my shit in like the mall when I see him. Poor Oscar. I'm like, I'm like running, and he's like, oh, okay, we're going to see Santa. So I very much relate to this character. If they ever did a Buddy the Elf, a girl got to play it, I would love to audition. I very much relate to Buddy. But yeah, no, I like hated this, made me like Will Ferrell. So I was like the opposite person for that. But
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, again, I have nothing against the movie. It's just that I don't know. And I will say this is where the conversation will be interesting tonight because there aren't many Christmas movies that I'm like, oh my God. Like you know what I mean? I like a lot. I find funny moments, but there's nothing that I'm like, oh, I could watch on loop. You know what I mean?
oh, and I have like a million. Like
Yeah.
literally, I'm like, I've already this season watched this 7 times, this 8 times, this. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I love Christmas movies.
So last night I watched Home Alone. At least at least part of it. Again,
Oh,
I don't love it. I don't hate it. I like it. I do. I like it. It's iconic. It's classic. It's funny. I was laughing last night watching it. And of course, do you know? I'm sure you know. And how could we not like it here in Scranton? They mention Scranton in that movie
in the airport?
when I think it's is she in the airport when Catherine O'Hara says, "Where am I anyway?" And they
Yeah,
say
yeah.
Scranton.
Yep.
And I remember being, I think I was in college when this was out, and we were watching in the movie theater and we lost it. We're like, ah! So of course that was very exciting. And I love Catherine O'Hara. And of course, John Candy, that scene is funny. But again, there's nothing I go ape for. I do like it a lot. Now, do you like that one too?
Oh, well, I'm the exact Macaulay Culkin and I are the same age. So when that movie came out, like it changed. First of all, like we were not rich. We are a poor Italian family who was living beyond our means in the suburbs. That house, his pajamas, everything. I would like, so from that point on, I'm like, Mom, I need plaid pajamas for Christmas. Mom, I need a Nerf gun. Mom, I need like I have wait a minute. Home Alone 2. The Talk Boy.
Oh.
This is it. I had it. Like I am a home. Like I watched that movie and then became Kevin McAllister. Like still to this day, if I think someone's breaking in my house, I'm like, get action figures, put them on the ground. Like I still think the way he thinks to protect himself. Like that movie, yeah, that's like a childhood. Love that movie. Yeah.
Well, I can relate to that because there have been nights that I've put my pumps on the top of the stairs with the point out. I swear to God, I'm like, well, if they can't see in the dark, they'll step on this and trip or something. I have thought that same way.
See, he was smart. He's a good way to protect your
I
house.
was thinking that last night watching it. I'm like, damn, this kid was like a real good critical thing, like real strategic. He was real good.
Oh my God, that's how I learned how to do laundry. Him doing laundry in that movie. I was like, so all you have to do is that. I mean, he still does it better in that movie than I do it to this day. Like a bachelor, everything in one load. Go. No, I love.
Okay. So tell me, okay, I won't make you choose no more than the song. I'm sure you have many favorites. I won't make you choose one, but what is one that you've watched recently many times already?
Okay, so of like not cartoon or claymation or anything like that, I would say obviously I because my love of mental health, It's a Wonderful Life is one that I watch so many times. It's psychotic and scary. I have a It's a Wonderful Life poster right there. But here's one thing. I watched it. I've watched it 3 times already this season. But when the first time I watched it, I was making my Thanksgiving pies, and they're a process. Prep is 30 minutes. Bake time is 70. I did prep and bake time, and it was still the backstory of George, right? Like it's like where they're like, "Hey, Clarence, we got to fill you in on this guy George Bailey." That takes an hour and 16 minutes. The story that is the movie is 56 minutes. I literally lost my mind. I'm like, no, Frank Capra. The backstory cannot be longer than the story. Like, this is not okay. So I love it, but God, did it need edited? Like, you know what I mean? The backstory is too long. I don't need every detail of George's youth. Like, we get it. We get it. Just get us to the story. But yeah, I
Now,
love it.
I do like that movie, and I'm gonna show my lack of awareness here, or ignorance. So you said you mentioned mental health.
Yeah.
So and maybe I don't fully understand the movie. So I know that he hits the tree with his
Yes.
car, and like so I thought that kind of like makes him black out or whatever. Is there another element that I'm missing, which I'm sure I am?
So, like, imagine I'm watching this as a like 3 or 4 year old. So I already have this understanding of death by suicide. He's going to kill himself. That is
Mm.
the whole purpose why Clarence is even brought in. He's about to give up the greatest gift that God gives you. So he goes to the bridge and he's like, I just don't know. And he's got Zuzu's pedals. He's going to jump. And when he jumps, that the Clarence comes in. And so it's not really, the people who watch the movie are like, was it all a dream? Did he hit his head in the accident? Is Clarence a manifestation of that? Or did an angel actually come down and save him? I like that part of the story because it's a movie. Let's make it magical. But I mean, the fact that this Christmas movie is starting with a man whose career has fallen into the shitter because of family. I mean, the way he like has a rage fit on his kids before he heads to the bridge. First, he yells at his wife and kids, trashes the house, screams on the phone to a teacher, then goes to a bar to drink. I mean, this is like right out of like My Father. Like, I'm just like, whoa, this is like Beanie when he's having a bad day. Beanie threw shit. Beanie did that. So I could like, but then it's like, oh my God, could my dad kill himself? Like, this movie was heavy themes, but then he gets to have that alternate life where you were never. Let's see what happens if you're never born, George, and how it ruins everybody else's life. And oh my God. And then he finally gets, he wants to live again, like that whole thing at the end. Oh my God, the highs and lows of depression. I really love it. I really think George Bailey had bipolar without a freaking doubt. Like, I really love that character and like everything. I mean, it just really shows like the toughness of life.
Now I will say again, so different perspectives. Like I did see that movie many times. And I guess it's not like I didn't realize he was going to jump, but I guess that wasn't in my view as much. So when you say that there, I was like, oh, how is okay? And I totally get what you're saying there. And it is, yeah, you're right. It is heavy, but I guess I didn't really think about it as much as I probably should have. But yeah, you're right. It is a very, very heavy movie, very serious movie. Yeah.
And not to like trigger warning or anything or talk more about death by suicide, but for me personally, it's wild where if I get into a headspace where I'm thinking like that, it is almost like I do what George Bailey had happened to him. And then like I'm like immediately I'm like, well, what think about Oscar? How do they tell Oscar you're not coming around anymore? Bethany, Rose, your sister's lost so many people. And I'm done. I'm like, oh my God, like just imagining that alternate world for them gets me out of my headspace because I'm like, no. Like that movie's actually helped me. It actually has helped me in my own depression and whatnot. I really I don't think it's, I always say it's my perfect movie, but it isn't. It needs edited, but great. I really do love that movie.
That's, I mean, and that's interesting because again, I guess I don't say I minimized it, but I looked at it in a way where I didn't appreciate all of that, where you did. And that's interesting that, someone again, to credit art, you never know what you're going to view or listen to that is going to make all the world of difference to how you're feeling.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. And I always, even very little before I knew I had mental health issues, I always saw my dad in George Bailey. Like I was like, that guy's kind of like my dad. Everyone loves him. Like my dad couldn't see how, I don't think my dad knew how beloved he was, but like when he got sick and like my father was a manager at a country club and all the men, every member raised like all this money for my father. And it was at Christmas time. I mean, he really was George Bailey. Like I got to like kind of see that in real life. And it was, yeah, that movie's very, very special to me for a million reasons. I also had food poisoning while watching that movie once, and my mother gaslit me while I was telling her, Mom, the food doesn't smell right. And she's like, oh, it's because you're sick, baby. Go ahead and eat it. And I'm eating this soup while watching It's a Wonderful Life. And I'm like, Mommy, this soup doesn't taste right. She's like, it doesn't taste right because you're sick, baby. And then she goes into the kitchen and picks up the can of soup that she had made me. And underneath the label was a black hole. And she's like, oh my God. And she ran back in, grabbed the soup for me, and I projectile vomited for 2 days straight. She called the ER. They were like, monitor it. If it happens for 3 days, bring her in. I didn't have to go in. But yeah. So my
Well,
mother
that is definitely memorable.
during that movie. Yeah.
So this one, of course, gets quoted a lot, and I will say I do enjoy this movie, Christmas Vacation. I did watch that already, and that was, I don't want to say streaming, but it was on, I don't know if it was TBS, one of those channels where it was like
Yeah.
back to back to back to back, and it's been on. And of course, I do have that DVD because that is a movie I do really get a lot of laughs out of that, and in
Love it.
particular, Squirrel, because of my hate, really mostly
Yes.
hate, but partial love relationship with Squirrel. That Julia Louis Dreyfus is
Oh my God.
hysterical. So
Todd.
that movie I do enjoy a lot. And I mean, Cousin Eddie, how could you not like?
Oh,
Oof, I mean, really.
yeah, Aunt Bethany, like the blessing, like that whole, I freaking like love that whole, those two together, William Mickey and her, Clark with his lights. Oh my God. I know, like, talk about like cancel culture. You are not allowed to love Chevy Chase. I don't care. I have loved Chevy Chase my whole life. He has been one of my favorite comedic actors. I'm a huge fan of him with Goldie Hawn, Foul Play, Seems Like Old Times, the Fletch
Fletch.
movie, yes, Spies Like Us, yeah, and all the National Lampoon Vacations. So I am a huge Chevy fan. Yeah, and Beverly D'Angelo and little Jonathan Galecki, Juliette Lewis. I mean, the cast on that is phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to imagine, like, oh my God, that's Big Bang Theory guy,
I know.
and Darlene's boyfriend, of course, on Roseanne.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know the full extent of what he's done, but now I do think of it now just because he's been in the news. Like, oh, I don't know if he did. I don't know if he was involved with the Me Too movement or not, but I know that it was like basically being an asshole or whatever.
On
Not
Community, yeah, when he was on Community.
not so nice, whatever. But I do still laugh at that movie. That's, I mean, and yeah, the movies you named, Funny Farm. That,
Oh,
right? Isn't
love
it
Funny
that
Farm.
movie?
Yes, yes,
And that had an element of, remember they hired everyone in town to be like
yeah.
carolers to make it look like a Norman Rockwell scene.
Yes, I love Funny Farm. I even liked him in his the Invisible Man movie he did, Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
I
It was like
don't think I
more of a,
saw that one.
I was a huge Chevy fan, and I also have to say, like the stories out of Community where Chevy was inappropriate with the other actors, he claims it goes the other way, that he was treated as though he was over the hill and not funny anymore, and he was corny, and like he's fucking Chevy Chase. I don't care who you are, like I have a little bit of respect for being on a show with Chevy Chase if I'm a young comedian and he's like this icon. And I think he felt that they were very ageist. So it went both ways. So I tend to be like, hey, it sounds like everyone was kind of horrible on that show, especially the creator, Dan Harmon. So, although I will say Community has maybe one of the best Christmas episodes a TV show ever had, which was called Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas. And it was all done in claymation.
Oh, cool.
Really, really, season 2, their Christmas episode, one of the best ever. I will give them that.
I will say I could never get into that show. I don't know why. I mean, there are certain shows when I'm like, oh, like for example, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I want to like shows that everyone likes,
Yeah.
especially if it's a comedy. But I just never like. I think I would occasionally watch Community, but I just never really got into it. Like it's like, I love The Office. I love Seinfeld's my absolute favorite show. So there are shows that just hooked me. And I hate, I shouldn't say I hate to say it, but I hate to say it, but like Friends, I liked when it was on, but that's not a show I can quote. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
and Community, I just couldn't really get into. And It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I've watched a couple episodes, but again, it never grabbed me. I just like I'm like I think I couldn't relate, and I don't know. I couldn't relate to the characters. I don't know, but
I will say of Community, I could relate more than Friends just because there's so many weirdos on Community that I was like, oh, I bet Troy and Abed and their blanket forts. Yeah, those are my people. But but I love Friends because I was in high school when that came out. My sister and I, that was like our favorite show. And if I like went back to school to do like a master's, I would want to show the Community almost like storyline by storyline robbed Friends, like from character development to actual plot lines. Like I can go back because I've watched them all so many times that during the pandemic, I started working on a piece where I'm like, I can tell you what episode they stole that from Friends, who that character, like it got like psychotic. My one friend was like enabling me to do this, but yeah, anyway, it's a complete ripoff.
that's interesting you say that. And of course, I'm going to take us down another road because that's what we do. That's what I do. But you say that, and I just think it's such an interesting thing about and this isn't to piss on what you just said, but like yes, I don't know that because I didn't watch the show, but it's interesting when I see one comedian do a joke where I'm like, "Oh my god, that joke was done years ago by Jim Gaffigan." And you wonder sometimes, I would never accuse everyone of ripping someone off mindfully. You know what I mean? Because I think one, sometimes there's stuff out there in, I don't know if the right word would be the zeitgeist or whatever, but it's out there. And so it kind of seeps into your brain and you don't know. And, I have one of my favorite, a smart boss I had years ago said, none of us are reinventing the wheel. So there are only so many original ideas out there. And I can't remember the exact joke that I heard just recently. And I was like, Jim Gaffigan told that joke 4 years ago. But I'm wondering if it's a matter of you just don't, maybe you do it and you don't know that it's been done. Like if it's a similar concept, I'm not talking word for word,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
talking similar concept. And I will share something here. And not that I want to look back because I should only look forward, but someone here locally accused me of stealing her material. And it was really only 4 words. And it
Oh
was
my.
alliteration. So I'm like, I don't think I was the only person that used it. And I didn't use the whole concept in which those 4 words were in her whole joke, to a point where, and I won't go down this path, but like she made a big deal publicly, wouldn't talk to me personally about it. It was
Oh
a
my
shit
God.
show, and thankfully we've moved on. So I won't say more about that, but so that's just an interesting concept, about art and what's influence, what's me not realizing something's been done, because isn't art kind of like, and you'll see that on different shows I'm watching now, where it's like, oh, well, this is just so and so, you rip them off, or have I been influenced by them?
No, I know. Well, I personally, like, I early in my career, I worked with a guy who I was watching him steal jokes from people that were in the town. Then I would book a lot of like young women, and then some, like I would do a show one month and next month they'd come back and do material that I like did, and I'd be like, okay, well, I'm not booking them anymore because if you're going to come and steal my material. And then I took it one step further, and that is why the material you see me do now is so freaking specific and unique to my life. Try and take it. Try and take it. Like, please, I want you to try and rewrite this true bit about my mental illness and my dad. Go for it. I want you to. That's how I became so paranoid. It was like, it almost was like a paranoid manifestation of them stealing things. And even just recently, a friend of mine did a bit that was very similar to a bit I've been doing. And I was like, I just don't care anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like, who cares? If one of us makes it with that bit, Godspeed. At least I know I wrote it. Like, we're in Pittsburgh. Let's chill out for a minute, okay? This isn't like we're not on Jimmy Fallon. No one heard the joke. Let's bring it down a notch. But there is an older comedian who does, like, he steals like old Woody Allen bits, old Joan Rivers bits, because he's older, and I think he thinks he can get away with it because none of the young comedians would know. And I'm like, I know all of that material, man. You stole that. Like, that is word for word Woody Allen. That is word for word Joan Rivers. Stop. But who cares? Like, I literally don't. Let him go make money. He's got kids. I don't care.
You bring up, I love the point you made, and then we'll move away from this, but I love what you said about like you're getting more and more specific. So I think that's interesting because I think isn't, as we learn about comedy and humor, isn't it specifics are funny. That's the idea. The more specific a joke is, the funnier it is. So I would think that only makes your material funnier, but also more personal so that it shouldn't be. And then if it's really taken or stolen, because let's face it, like the one I'm referencing from before, we're talking about a dating joke. When you have a person who's literally the same age as you, you're both single, you're both dating, you're bound to be circling the same drain. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So, like, oh, I have a joke about dating. Do you? You know what I mean? It's kind of like the more general, and shame on both of us for not digging deeper. But I think to the point you made, the deeper that you go and the more personal, I would think one, it could be more cathartic. Two, it is funnier because specifics generate comedy. And three, you'll know if someone's using, you know what I mean, your stuff
Yeah.
and really ripping you off, and that shouldn't happen.
Yeah, one time I was doing it was for World Bipolar Day, and they gathered a bunch of comedians. Not everyone had bipolar, but wanted to support the cause. And I was the host headliner. I went first, and I did a bit that I've done many times about being on all these antipsychotic drugs. And I was driving through a tunnel, and right before I got to the tunnel, the hood of my car flew off. And because I was on all these antipsychotics, the only reaction I had was I looked up at the rearview mirror, didn't hit anyone, and I kept driving for 3 months without a hood on my car, right? So like I go into this whole bit about that. I go back to the green room, and this woman is just like actively upset. And she's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do now. I don't know what I'm gonna do now. You stole my joke. I'm like, how did I steal your joke? I just told real stories. She's like, well, I have a story how I was on a plane that was going down, and because I was in antipsychotics, I didn't have any emotion. I'm like, that's not the same story at all. And she's like, well, the antipsychotics. And it took another guy who I always like deemed a bully in the community to go, but wait a minute, this is a show about mental health. Like, this is the one show where we may have similar themes here. Like, maybe don't get mad at Gab. Cause she's like, I'm gonna go up on stage and be like, I have a story like Gab, but mine's funny. And he's like, whoa, you
Oh,
be mean. Like, what the heck? Like, it was just really bizarre. And like, I think people just get so insecure, and it's just so many. Come on, comedians are the most insecure people in the world. That's why I loathe doing comedy, because I'm like, oh, can you leave your insecurity at home, please? Can you just be a person? We're both people. We both had moms. Can you just talk to me like we're people who had moms, man? But they don't. They're just like, or like if they make, I don't know, like this, your guys were so nice. I had nothing but good experience in Scranton, but I've definitely had more than more awful comedy experiences than good.
there are assholes everywhere, right? but I'll have to say, it's when you told your story, I'm thinking, who's ripped you off? Tommy Boy. That movie, they had the hood of the car fly off or something like that.
Oh my God. Did it happen?
They hit a deer and things like
Oh,
happen with that. Or and I no, and I no, it's just funny because you made me think of movies that I think are funny. That and then planes, trains, and automobiles, and like what happened to
oh
their
my God. The car
vehicle.
like lights on fire. That is when Steve Martin is pulling out his cards and he's like,
And it's crispy.
it's like just crisp. I died. Even as a kid, I'm like, I don't know what a Diners Club is, but I love it. That card is hilarious.
Gotta love
And that's
physical.
considered a holiday movie, just for the record.
Okay. Yeah. And that's one that I thoroughly enjoy. I think the two of them together were
Oh,
fantastic.
so good. Love John, R.I.P. John Candy.
Yeah. But so touching too at the end, like how sad that he didn't have his Marie, I think her name was,
Oh,
anymore in his life. Yeah. Yeah.
no. He's really good in that movie. Like he has a very dramatic, like good scenes, and yeah. So I have
So
to
go
say a
ahead.
movie that I really love, that like it makes me think of my mom, it makes me think of my family. It's about a family of 5 kids, so that was us growing up. And it's 3 boys, 2 girls, just like us. It's called The Family Stone. I don't know if you've ever seen.
Oh, yes, I did enjoy that. That's Sarah Jessica Parker
Yeah.
and one of the Wilsons, I think. One of the
Owen
Wilson.
Wilson,
Yeah.
Dermot Maroney, what's her name? Elizabeth, is it Amy Adams or no? Elizabeth Adams? Rachel McAdams, that's what her name is. Rachel.
Yes.
Yeah. And I can't remember the dad is, but he's famous.
Oh, I think he played Coach on
Yes.
the sitcom. Craig T. Nelson.
Yes, Craig T. Oh, I love
Poltergeist.
Poltergeist. How
Yes.
can I forget Craig T. Nelson? Poltergeist. Yeah, I love that movie, and it's definitely sad, but I just really relate to it, just from the family, because that's how my siblings, we were really tough on partners coming into the family, and we had such our own shtick, and it was like, we were our own little world. And when others came in, it just like, we were weird. I don't know. I just really relate to that. And yeah.
Who was the mom in that? Diane Keaton?
Diane
No,
Keaton.
Diane
Yeah.
Keaton. Okay, yeah. No, I really enjoyed that movie, and I that's funny. I would never think of that as holiday, like only because it doesn't come right to my mind. But they were celebrating Christmas. That's right,
Well, yeah,
and
all around Christmas. Yeah.
yeah, that was a really good movie. A funny but also touching. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that. Like, I already watched that twice this year. Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorites.
Now, we won't talk about it again since I brought it up in October, but Love Actually is kind of a Christmas movie.
Agreed.
It's funny. I brought it up to shout out to number one fan, Oliver. I told him about how we talked about it and then like all the stuff I was finding online about the whole cancel culture idea and all that. And like he's on board with us, like, screw that, because it's one of his favorite, like he really likes that movie. But that to me is a good Christmas movie. And yes, okay, some of the things are not modern enough, some of the thinking or whatever, but it's a touching movie for me, and I still enjoy watching it. As I said, when I watched it out of season back in October, I think, when we talked.
Yeah, and I also feel like films are almost like moving time capsules. So yes, okay, there were moments from that movie that might not live up to today, but hey, let's see what it was like back when that movie came out in what, 1999 or 2000? I don't even
I think
know
it was
what you.
2000. Yeah.
So it's like it's a time capsule. This is where we were in 2000 as humans. Like, why does everyone have to be like, that movie shouldn't even be aired anymore? Well, that's extreme. Can you please go find a therapist and let me watch the movie? Thanks. It'd be really cool. Everyone else can get therapy now. That's what I'd say to my therapist every session. Now I'm like, okay, now we're at the point, Leo, where everyone else has to get it, because I've done the work and they're not, on board, and it's the rest of the world making me crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Or can we kind of like take a step back and look at the whole movie instead of focusing on like the one I think I brought up in particular, the one girl. It did bother me that she was called pudgy or whatever she was
Oh my
called,
God,
fat, and
not
she
even at
was so
all.
not. She's this beautiful young woman, and yes, you can be big and beautiful too, so I don't mean an insult by that, but like by standards of beauty, that she was big and she was not at all. That did bother me watching
Yeah.
it again, but not so much that I'm like, oh, this is so unrelatable or I can't watch this. No, I mean, what, like when we think about things, if we take a minute, like, okay, what's going on in the story? People wanting to be with people they love, or wanting to be loved. A
Yeah.
woman finding out that her husband could be cheating with a woman at work, or it's an emotional affair. He bought her a Christmas. Boy, that doesn't. Of course, it still happens. And like, a guy that just wants to go out and have as much sex as possible. Okay, like, so what's, yeah, I mean,
They all exist. Yeah.
people wanting to spend time with the ones they love at the holidays. I mean, this is all still very relevant, I think.
Yeah, I do too. No, I mean, I think one of my favorite, and there's so many versions of them, so we could talk of what's your favorite version. But I mean, one of my favorite short stories and movies is A Christmas Carol. I freaking love it. I think it still holds up today. I mean, Dickens, if that doesn't hold up into capitalist America, like the poor, the haves, the have-nots, I mean, it's just such a wonderful tale, and of like human misery, finding joy before it's too late. Like, I truly, yeah, that same effect, that Scrooge of like, it's Christmas Day and I'm still here, and then George Bailey, like, I don't, like, those are two things. Like, whenever I like get through pneumonia or like a really bad flu, I feel like both Scrooge and George Bailey. I'm just so happy to be alive again. Like, it is, I get it, and I don't know, I love A Christmas Carol. And I was always sick at Christmas, so my family always called me Tiny Tim. So I,
Aw, so along those lines, Scrooged with Bill
oh,
Murray, that's a good movie. Now, again, I can't tell you I know it like line by line. Maybe I've seen it twice, but I do recall thinking it was enjoyable, thinking it was funny. So
love.
I did. Now, of course, again, cancel culture. Bill Murray did something, whatever,
Oh yeah,
whatever. Don't
he's in his
know.
life. He's done. He doesn't get canceled though. Chevy gets canceled. Bill does way worse stuff, and everyone's like, "No, it's Bill. He's a national treasure." And that's when I get angry. I'm like, "No, we can't kill Chevy and save Bill. Why? That's when I believe in like the Illuminati. I'm like, nah, like, there's something weird there. No, 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 no. We don't can't like it just doesn't make sense." So yeah, I'm always for the underdog, so I'm going to defend Chevy. But I
Yes.
love Scrooge, Karen Allen. The cast is just phenomenal. When they think that he's Richard Burton, that freaking kills me. And he does Richard Burton impersonations in the
Oh,
home.
who's the woman that's in it that's so funny from Taxi?
Oh,
Carol.
is her name Carol Kane?
Yes, Carol Kane.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Look, Frank, a toaster. And then she bashes him in the head with it. I love that movie.
And didn't it wait, is maybe I'm mixing things up. Buster Poindexter, didn't he have something to do with that movie, or did he sing the song in it? Buster, I know maybe he was in it. I thought he was in it, Buster Poindexter.
No, but I know there's like a big music number.
I think he was in it. It's been a while, so I
I know
don't
Mary
really
Lou
remember.
Retton plays Tiny Tim. They get
Oh,
Mary Lou Retton as Tiny Tim.
that's right. They did. That's right. That's right. So here's another. Okay, I said I like the Mariah Carey song, so I'm going to say one more controversial thing here.
Okay.
I don't particularly like the story or the movie that a lot of people love. You'll shoot your eye out, kid. It's a Christmas story.
Sorry, that's what we. Do you know that's who I dressed up as Halloween?
I know. So I don't mean to offend, and I
No,
know they
I
play this marathons at Christmas time, and it's always been on. And I get he looks funny in the little piggy or whatever the hell suit it is. I love the
funny.
leg lamp, but I could never again get into that movie, and I don't think I saw it in the movie theater because I think I was a little older, and I don't know, I just didn't see it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, why is this suddenly, why do people like love the hell out of this thing? Why is it always on at Christmas? I can't get into that movie. So go ahead and hit me with the wet noodle, however many lashes, whatever.
Well, first off, I'm going to say Oscar and I did not want to dress like Scott Farkas and Grover Dill. He wanted to be a skeleton. I bought us each skeleton costumes. His mom made us do that. So that was Bethany's call. She loves A Christmas Story. I have been lucky enough. Josh and I actually got to work with several members of the cast of A Christmas Story. They came to Pittsburgh to do like an improv, like we have an improv troupe that was working with the cast of A Christmas Story. And they had Josh and I come and do anti-bully music for Scott Farkas and all the bullies. So that was kind of fun. And I got to meet some of them. And so that was really neat. Growing up, it was on all the time. So we watched it. But in my 20s, I turned on the film and I didn't watch it for almost a decade because Gene Shepard, the narrator and author of the book and the movie, he was part of a committee who tried to get Lenny Bruce not to perform anymore. Like he was part of that like moral agenda community that was like Lenny Bruce should not be allowed to go on stage and say what he says, and we need to get it. And so was part of that like witch hunt that led to Lenny's constant arrest, constant drug addiction, then death by suicide. So I hated Gene Shepard in that movie, and I boycotted for a decade because of my love of Lenny Bruce. And then I got therapy and stopped caring about that kind of stuff. And I was like, you know what? It's on. I'll watch it. So yeah. Oh, that's where I am now. I like Melinda Dillon, the woman who plays the mom a lot. So
I don't think, and I'll admit this, so maybe this shows ignorance again, because I shouldn't judge something unless I've watched the full thing. I can't tell you that I've literally seen it from start to finish. Because it was on like my brother, who's a couple years older than me, but I mean we weren't kids by any means, but maybe excuse me, maybe 15 years ago, whatever. So maybe when he was in his, maybe he was 40 or maybe he was 35, whatever. He enjoyed it and he'd sit down and watch because it was just, I remember it would be on TBS or whatever, like once, and it would just keep playing for 24 hours.
yeah.
So I would catch it in bits and pieces. And I don't think I ever sat and watched it from beginning to end, but I will tell you, I didn't get it. So, and I don't know the story. I will admit, I don't fully know the story. And I was like, did it take place like in the 40s? Is that accurate or?
I was maybe the 40s or 50s. I'm not really sure. I guess I was,
Okay.
but I don't know.
40s or 50s. So I'm like watching it going like, I'm like, I guess that confused me too, because I didn't know. I was like, what year is this? Like, I didn't know. And then the father seemed like they just seemed weird. The father seemed like a grump and they were like odd. And I just like it, nothing about it drew me in. I just really didn't. But of course, I know the pop culture references, about don't shoot your eye out or you'll shoot your eye out, whatever it was. And, sticking the tongue to the pole and freezing and all that. So I see it. I know the iconic pieces of it, but I guess I don't fully understand the story or know the story. So maybe I should learn it before I judge it.
Yeah, it's is it like a great film, riveting? No, but is it nice to have on the background and the music's fine and it has Christmas? Yeah, yeah. That's why I think it's a good like run for 24 hours because it is one you want to just, you don't need to catch it and want to talk. I mean, that movie has a scene that I think Probably more than one, but at least the end when they go to the Chinese restaurant and they're making fun of the way they sing. I'm like, that would be canceled. That would not even be in the movie today. Like they would literally have pulled that whole section out of the film. But
Well, and I think of that often with The Office. There are still many episodes of that that are like, yeah, that would not air today. And yet it does air because it's on Comedy Central all the time.
but kind of the point of Michael and that show was that constant cringe. So I feel like The Office can get away with it because it's like, no, that was the point. He was so awful. Like that's why he gets to do that, you know. But it is
Yeah,
sad we live in a world where there's people with no discernment and they're like, no, he's mean. And it's like, okay, I can't.
yeah, well,
Just
like Archie Bunker too, right? I mean,
oh
that's
my
the
God.
whole point that, I mean, a
Right.
great actor who's acting, not that he's like that, but like Diversity Day on The Office, like they're
Oh my God.
using
Yeah.
stereotypes. Like excuse me, I don't know that that would be created today or that they would,
Right.
and it's like it is cringeworthy. But the thing, and I mean, I know this does not have anything to do with with Christmas. However, I will say The Office has had many excellent Christmas episodes, where Michael has been a baby and has ruined many Christmases, like when Phyllis got to play Santa Claus and he was just a jerk so many times that I'm just like, oh my God, I just want to punch him. But yet the big difference, and I am a huge Office fan, so I will say I can't really stand Andy, the character of Andy. I feel like I cannot stand him.
Oh, I hate him.
And
Yeah.
you like him?
No, I hate him. He's my
Oh, okay. I'm
Rose.
sorry.
He's in any movie. I can't watch it. Rose, like you really hate that man. Like
And I don't know. I think he could be a nice man, Ed Helms. I don't know, but so the thing about Michael, I just wanted to say, like there's so many times cringeworthy, totally, like where it's like horrible, but yet a lot of times he shows what a good heart he has. Like when he bought Pam's piece of artwork, and he's like the only one who really showed any legitimate interest in what she was doing, and was like he often has like the excitement and wonderment of a child, and I
yeah.
think there's innocence in that, and I think to Steve Carell's credit to play that and for you to not be hated is just so wonderful. And Ed Helms, again, nothing against him as although I have no interest in any of the movies, The Hangovers, whatever, but like I can't stand his character. There are seasons where he's acceptable, I can watch it, but toward the end I literally, and I'm a huge fan, but even watching the reruns, there are some that I literally will turn off because I'm like, I can't. You're not likable. You're a childish, rich, spoiled, inconsiderate baby. I just can't deal with you. Okay, I got that out of my
So
system.
he's my least favorite character too. So you are not alone on that. There are two things I do have to ask you, Janine, just because you and my sister are the same age. And there are two movies that my sister was obsessed with, Christmas movies that like I had to watch because she's my sister. And so one is a TV episode, but this is like Rose goes hardcore for this. Like this is her thing. The Little House on the Prairie Christmas episode. Did you have any connection to that whatsoever? Did it mean anything to you? Did you even watch Little House on the Prairie? Is my sister a freak? It's okay to say it. She won't listen. She might actually. She's going on a trip tomorrow. Not
Okay,
that this will.
so I don't remember them having a Christmas episode. I know nothing about that. I'm sorry to your sister to
Oh,
say.
Rose, you're all
However,
alone.
I did watch the show. I will say that. I did watch the show, the whole Nellie, she was a bully, early bully, and then going to the store. I used to think it was cool that you buy fabric on the bolt, and things were like, penny candy, and like that they would write with like whatever the hell that was on the chalkboard. So I did watch it, but I have no recollection of a Christmas episode. I really
Okay,
don't.
okay. Well, at least I know she wasn't alone. Because I was like, Rose, I feel like you're the only person who even watched Little House on the Prairie. Who
No,
would
I
watch?
watched.
It's like, no, that's it. I'd have to watch the reruns with her because she loved them. Okay. And then the other one, all of my siblings liked it, but Rose talks about it. It was a cartoon. It was only on in the 70s, but before I was born, called Cosmic Christmas, about aliens coming down and finding the truth about Jesus.
Was that only in Pittsburgh? I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. I have no idea, but I was like, well, maybe Janine will know. So I was like excited to talk to him. Like maybe Janine will be, can connect with Rose on these
Well,
two.
I will rely on Oliver listening to this so
Okay.
he can tell me because I have no recollection of Cosmic Christmas either. No.
No one does. Like I'll be like, oh my family was like this movie. I never got to see it. They're like, never heard of it. Don't know. And you can't find it on anything. And I don't
Hmm.
think it was an entire family hallucination because I swear they found it was on once in like 1985 and they taped it off of television on Betamax. So I do think I saw it once as a child.
Hmm. I don't, and it wasn't animated though, or was it?
It was a cartoon.
It
Yep.
was a cartoon. I
Yeah.
still don't, and that's what it was called, Cosmic Christmas.
Yeah. And it's about aliens coming down and finding out about the birth of Jesus and Christmas and like them learning about it.
Yeah, I only remember the ones that I'm sure you know that were played forever, like, Rudolph and, Kris
Rudolph.
Kringle and like Frosty the Snowman and all those terrible animation, but still very,
Oh,
heartwarming and all that. And he gets thrown in prison. I guess that's Kris Kringle, or Santa Claus is coming to town, whatever the heck.
yes, it was down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rudolph is a big, I mean, that's like the bullying in that is so bad. And even from the adults, like that one, that always scarred me. Rudolph was tough for me to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. He was treated very poorly.
Oh
Yes.
my God. I mean, his
Yes.
own dad was like, ah, look at that thing with like black dirt all over his nose. He's like, yeah, now you can fit in. Like his parents are embarrassed of him. The other reindeer, even Santa's like, hey, get out of here. It's just so, oh, gee,
Get out of
the
here,
little
kid.
misfit toys. And it's like, I'm a Charlie in the box. And like, it's horrible. Oh my God. It's like it's a lot.
Has that been canceled yet or no?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Again, to your point from before, it's funny how some things are and some things aren't. That if you go, but wait a minute, that's not real nice, is it?
That's when I'm like, that's why I believe in the Illuminati. Why is only half of things going to go? I don't trust you people. But I also have a paranoid brain, so I have to watch that. I have to watch that talk in therapy sessions. One of my favorites, it's puppetry. And it was one I've watched since I was a little girl because we always had HBO. Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. It is a personal favorite of mine. Love it a lot. Don't know if you've ever seen it.
I have not. I honestly don't think I've, excuse me, ever heard of that one even. Boy,
Do you
I'm
have
out of the loop.
Amazon? Do you have Amazon Prime?
I do now. Yes.
It's on Amazon Prime. It's like the featured Christmas movie. So if you have an hour and you want to watch, Mama Otter who's mourning her dead husband Otter and little Emmett Otter who doesn't have a dad and what that story entails, my mom and I, we loved Emmett Otter. That was kind of our jam.
I might have to check that out. I will tell you, and I will tell you this sadly or with some regret, that I did begin to watch a movie that it means a lot to you. So I don't want to, I didn't get through all of it and I want to go back to it, but I wasn't really connecting with it, but I do want to see the rest of it. The one, yes, the Lady in White.
I feel like it's because I mean it's very Italian, so that could also be why you're not connecting with it. Like right from the get go, it's like this Italian family, so I immediately connected with it. And there's a lot of trauma, and I get that all the time. Yeah.
I made it to him being locked in the school. Stuck.
Okay.
So that's as far as I got. And then I was kind of like, I wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to see what happens next. And I think I had to get going. I'm like, so I turned it off and I haven't gone back to it. But
Okay.
I would like to see the end of it just to give it a fair shake. But as I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, I wish I liked this. I knew what it meant to you. And I'm like, I don't dislike it. I'm just not really getting into it that much. Yeah.
It's a slower movie to get going. Like it like the story doesn't even start until he's locked into the cloakroom and you kind of understand like the horror that's at play. And it's done delicately because it's, it was going to be geared towards kids. I think it ended up getting a PG-13 rating. And like I've told you, I've become friends with the filmmaker now
Yeah.
through social media, and he is just like yeah, it's like a precious thing from my childhood. But I could see like as an adult checking it out for the first time, being like, "What is this? What am I watching? This budget is very small." Oh, not to get back into Halloween, I have to say this though, Janine, because this happened after our conversation. I found out that there are 11 of the Children of the Corn movies.
What?
Yeah, that was my response. And when I found that out, I was like, well, I guess now I have to watch them all. And I've been able to watch 10 of the 11. The only one I haven't been able to watch is the one from 2009, which is allegedly a complete remake of the first one. It's only available on Roku, so I'm trying to borrow Roku in the interim. And at first, like they were just so bad. Like I'm just like, but they're so bad that they're good that now I'm rewatching them. I have like an order of like my favorites, but they're clearly fan-made films that then they go to a distributor like, look, I made this like third movie of Children of the Corn. Do you guys want to buy it? And they're like, yeah, why not? And then they make all these like streaming money off of it. So my dream, and I'm announcing it here, is to write the 12th Children of the Corn film as a musical with Josh. And so that I want to like self-produce Children of the Corn 12 as a musical and co-write it with Josh. So that's a pipe dream I've got going on right now. But
So
I'm
let me
semi
ask you, do we have to watch all 11 to appreciate your 12th?
no. And that's the glory of these movies is like they loosely are connected, but they keep one thing, which is he who walks behind the rose, and that is a constant in every film. And I mean, most franchises can't keep up any continuity. They do a pretty decent job. I'm pretty proud of them. I'm not mad.
I did see the first one, and I will say I thought it was good, creepy as hell.
Oh yeah.
I had no clue that there was even a second, never mind 11.
11, Janine. I was already kind of in a depressive state. I found that out, got full blown depressed. I'm like, come on, I can't even like, you know what I mean? I'm trying to get on like local TV and it's like, it takes months, years. These, like, they're just green light. Like the first movie didn't even do well, like critically, financially, in any way. And they're like, yeah, let's green light 10 more. Why not? Why not? I'll just give money to that. Like, I was just like, I'm getting more and more depressed and I have to keep watching them. It was like a depression obsession thing that happened in October. I did it in 4 days. I watched 10 films in 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah, no.
And what streaming service were they on, might I ask?
All different. HBO Max, I believe, Tubi. Then I had to get 2 free trials of AMC Plus and like some like horror flicks or like some weird name thing. So I did 2 free 7-day trials. And yeah, and now I just have to get the Roku one and I'm good. And then I can just write my
Then you
little
can
movie.
relax.
And I can relax and then rewatch them all. Like one was on the other day. I'm like, oh, I love this one. It's 5. And Rose was like, you now have favorite ones and one thing.
Well, on Halloween, I thought of you. I think it was Halloween night or the night before. I did watch. I still love the original Halloween, so I did watch that. And I think I watched. I thought of you. What's the one that you had? You didn't love, and you said it reminded you of Stranger Things. Is that Halloween 3?
Well, I do love it, but it
Oh,
does
you do
remind me.
love it. It's
Oh my
but
God.
okay.
But
So that's
nothing
3.
about Michael Myers, but I love it for how bad it is. I love bad things.
I would like to see that one. That's not what I watched, but that it wasn't on. But I would like to have seen that one. But I did watch the original Halloween, and then I forget. Then I just watched the newer ones that came out recently. You know, the ones that because I had seen them, but I'm like, yeah, I'll watch one again. What the hell?
No, I rewatch all those. Halloween has always been my favorite franchise, although now Children of the Corn has me, really
Oh my
confused.
gosh, I cannot believe they have 11 of those. I had no clue.
I truly, when I was like, no, 11. It's like, I mean, it truly was like brain breaking. And then I was like, well, now I have to see them all. Some of them are great. The third one, I'm just going to tell you very quickly, is called Urban Harvest, where so the first one, the kids who survive, and in the second one, they go to a neighboring town. And in that town, some older women used to work in Gatlin. And they're like, no, all these kids are evil. And then all the grown-ups in that town died. So by the third one, they got to get them out of the country and they send them to urban Chicago. So the remaining living children from the corn go to urban Chicago. I kid you not, one of the kids, the one who has spoken to Hugh, walks behind the rose, brings seeds, finds an abandoned warehouse in downtown Chicago, plants cornfields, and gets all the kids into the abandoned and gets them all believing he who walks behind the rose. It's amazing. I'm not like imagine like gang Chicago kids coming in like literally like there's scenes where kids are getting their cornrows done in the cornrows. It was amazing. I was like, urban harvest. You have a win. But the fourth one is even better because there's a car accident scene where they use a toy car and then a Barbie doll flying, and then the actress hits the ground. I screamed, I laughed, I rewound it 9 times. I'm just saying, pretty good movies.
Oh my God. That is too funny. So how about this though? This is like interesting. It was maybe last week. I was waiting in line to buy some food at the Giant Market, and there was like it was a very busy time, and then this gentleman who's like a manager or whatever, I had like 2 items, so he says to me, "Here, you come with me." Took me up to the customer service desk. and the girl there was just very funny demeanor, and she's just like, oh Gary, you're gonna make me work. It was just kind of funny. And she's ringing me out, and she's like, I don't know, something about the back room she doesn't like to be in. She goes, and I'm here some days. And do you ever see the movie Children of the Corn? I'm like, oh yeah. And she was talking about the music, whatever that's played in the piped in music, and she goes, the song came on, it just so creepy, it reminded me of that. So it was just funny. It was just comical that she referenced that. And I was just like, oh, yeah, that must be creepy. I could see how you'd get freaked out by that.
Please, if you bump into her, tell her there were 11 films. You have to. If you're like, hey, real quick, I just wanted to say, you know, there are 11 of those movies. Okay, bye.
I instantly thought of her when you said that. So it's like if she ever gets bothered by Gary again to do her job and wait on people, I'm gonna be like, so you know that music bothers you, but do you know there are 11 of those films?
So check them out. Maybe there's music that won't bother you. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it gets more upbeat, especially in Chicago, right? If you're got
Oh my
like
God, there's
some,
much better
rap and
than that
stuff,
one.
maybe a little rap about corn. I don't know.
It's so good. It's so good.
Well, Gab, you and I could talk for an eternity. So I know Oliver's probably one of the few who really hangs in there for the whole conversation. No, I'm sure other people do too. But we'll start to wrap it up here. But again, like I said, we could talk forever. But let me ask you any parting words. We'll put that last. And what are your plans for the holidays, and what are you looking forward to? So that's like three questions in one. So whatever,
Okay.
however you want to answer that.
All right. Let me do a quick shout out to a movie and a short story that most people are unaware of, but I think it's phenomenal. And you can either read the short story or watch the film if you can find it. It's called A Christmas Memory by Truman Capote. And it was a very, very special. I saw it first as a movie with Geraldine Page. And it's about Truman Capote as a young boy when he was living with older cousins, and this is close friendship with a cousin who was like 60 and he was a little boy. And it's about the two of them at Christmas making fruitcakes. Very special. It was very special to my mother and I, but it truly is just such a delightful little tale. So I highly recommend that. If you've never read it or seen it, check that out. There have been remakes, not nearly as good. Just read the story. So I would say that. My second thing of things that I'm looking forward to this holiday season is just spending time with people, making a point to see family members that maybe I don't get to see all the time. I really want to get a lot of Oscar time. We last year we went to Kennywood. They do this amazing like light show for the holidays. So I know we want to do that. There's like a nutcracker village I would love to take him to because I collect nutcrackers. I've done it my whole life. So just like a lot of like making cookies with him. Baking in general is a big thing that I do. It really helps my grief, my house smells like my mom's here. It's wonderful. One of my favorite things. I will say, since my mother's passed, we don't do the Feast of the Seven Fish anymore. I kind of miss it a little bit. So what the tradition has been is I have like an early dinner with my sister and brother-in-law. Then I go to my best friend's house on Christmas Eve. But I'm contemplating only eating fish, but we'll see. And yeah, and then just being with people and I collect candy dishes, so filling my candy dishes and then putting all that candy on cookie trays when I give out the cookies at Christmas. So
Aw,
that's kind of how I baking is a big part of my holiday.
I could see that. I know that means a lot to a lot of people, especially recipes passed down and everything. So a couple of things I want to say. The seven fishes or seven fish, that's celebrated or passed down by a lot of people here in Scranton area too. Different families do practice that. I know it's Italian tradition, right? And I know there are many Polish traditions. And I think I've talked about this, if not with you, I think with my one guest who's Italian. I said, unfortunately, we did not have any of those kind of culinary or cultural traditions. My grandmother Irish, Irish, English, Welsh, like, and I'm not saying that they don't, but we didn't in particular. So we didn't have that. So I wanted to say I've always been admittedly envious of that because I think it's so cool to have that. Okay, the seven fish, but I've heard of people doing that, especially a lot of people here locally, because it is, the ethnicity is still alive and well here. A lot of the traditions for the holidays. Two, nutcrackers. I have a little collection, but I didn't start it myself. So it's kind of weird that I like started selling some of them off last year, a couple years ago. On one of my first real jobs, someone gave it to me as a gift. I worked at a newspaper, like a small community newspaper, and somebody gave me a nutcracker. So I started getting them. So it wasn't something I really picked, but people started buying them. But I do have a Penn State one that I'll probably not part with because someone bought that for me. And then this other one that I love that's a German one. It was bought at a little like local Kindle Mart kind of thing here. But I did start to sell off some on Facebook on the marketplace.
Now I'm gonna have to monitor your Facebook marketplace. There might be some I don't have. Like I've been collecting them since I think I was 10. And some have, are not in the best shape over the years of, when you start a collection as a 10-year-old, sometimes they're not. I have one that I feel like, just speaking of cancel culture, I could get canceled for, but I love it. And it's really like, I'm just going to tell you what it is. Go ahead, kill me. It's a Christopher Columbus nutcracker, but like, I'm sorry, but you're Italian. For the longest time, Columbus was our dude. Okay. So I loved it. And he has like a little globe. So now what I do is I have 2 nutcrackers of the wise men. I have like a nutcracker of Joe, Mary, and baby Jesus is in a nutcracker, but he's part of the set. And then I have my 2 wise men. So then I put Columbus is the third, like the wise guy, you know what I mean? And so I put him with them.
Wise guy.
To try to but I have to tell you this just because it will relate to Christmas and Halloween in a way. I was decorating the day after Thanksgiving, getting all my stuff out, and my sister, so my mother would buy me a new nutcracker every year. Since my mother passed, my sister has taken that on. This year, she was like, sis, there were 2 nutcrackers I couldn't decide between, so I bought you both, and I've had them. I've been waiting to put them up. One was a jazz musician because she was like, it would only have been better if he played trumpet, but it's a saxophone, but it still made me think of you. And the other was what she's like, I've never seen one like this. And it was a ceramic nutcracker. And in the belly was a snow globe. And then you would wind it up as a music box and play music. I could not wait to use it. I didn't have batteries yet, but on Friday, I'm setting everything up. I put it like in the most premier spot of my living room. Like that will be the eyepiece. I go to move furniture. I take this lamp, this very tall floor lamp. I put it in the middle of the room, turn my back. The lamp falls, breaks in half. I run to the lamp. I'm like, no, I broke my lamp. Then I look to see what it hit. It hit the snow globe. I mean, everywhere. The ceramic nutcracker, the snow globe, smashed to smithereens. The water now of the snow globe is pouring into a surge protector where my TV, cable box, and internet are plugged in. I'm like, unplugging stuff, glitter, glass shards are everywhere. I text my sister and my brother-in-law goes, is she in a Final Destination movie? At least he said that to make me laugh, because otherwise I think I would have I was in a fetal ball, so devastated that the best, most sacred nutcracker is now dead. I killed it.
I'm sorry to hear that. I am. Yeah.
So
I do think they're pretty cool, though. I will say, I think for me, it was like, do I lean into this? Because I didn't start it. Like this guy gave me one, and then I started like kind of some people would buy them for me, and I'm like, do I want to lean into this or not? And I kind of did for a while, and then there were some that they were gifts, and I just didn't pick them. You know what I mean? I didn't love them. Like the one was like an elephant from the circus balancing on a ball, and I had it and kept it for years. And then that was one that I sold. Then I have one that's like a snowman that has like a heart hanging from it. I'm like, it's cute. I think I might still have that one. I forget. But I saw online a Van Gogh one. Now that I really want it, but it was pricey. And I was like, I think it was like $150. And I'm like, oof, I don't know if I need to lean into this that much. But I have little ones that I actually got. They were actually for free because they were, when I worked at Blue Cross, they were kind of like giveaways to like clients, and they were like small, like your typical guy, like nutcracker, but they're little. And I love those because they could just fit in little places. And I think they're really cute. So what I want to say is I think it's very cool. I do think there are some very cool nutcrackers, but I started to get rid of a little bit of some of my collection.
no, I like, especially like not having kids too. I'm like, oh God, like there will be a time. Like I hate to do this, but I've been surrounded by enough death that I know that, as I get older, I'm gonna have to start getting rid of some of this stuff so that, people aren't going through all my junk. And we'll see if Oscar gets into nutcrackers. If that's something he likes, then my collection is his collection. If not, I'll donate them to, a church or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But I do love them. And even as I got older, I love them even more because I love to bust guys' balls. You know what I mean? I kind of see myself as an Annie Oakley. Anything you can do, I can do better. And I collect nutcrackers. Come mess with me, boys. I kind of like it. I like having a collection of nutcrackers to really intimidate the fellas, if you know what I'm saying. So,
oh my God, that's hilarious. I love
I
that.
have a Hillary nutcracker, literally.
You do?
Yeah,
oh,
you crack the nuts in between her legs. I love it.
Oh, see, you have cool ones. And like I had started getting them because that guy gifted me and I was like in my 20s. So it hasn't been like a real active collection, but you probably have some really awesome ones. I think I only had 8 of them or 10 of them or whatever, but like yeah, those kinds sound very cool. I would love a nutcracker and Hillary.
Yeah, it's pretty. I'm not mad about it. Yeah, I love. Yeah, I have a ton of that. I really love. What like yeah,
That
dinosaur
is
one,
so
court jester ones. Oh, my mother got me. My most expensive one is of William Shakespeare, and she got it from the Bombay Club, and it was like $150. And I remember her saying like, "You can never tell your father how much this cost." I'm like, okay, thank you. Yeah,
Oh, that's very you have some cool ones. Yeah. Very cool.
I love Nutcracker and candy dishes. Those have been my two things I've collected since I just, as a little kid, I was so drawn to candy dishes with hardtack candy. So,
Oh
and
my
Oscar
gosh.
loved hardtack candy. So there is a chance he will inherit my candy dish collection.
And for those listeners who may
Oh,
have
yeah.
not listened before with some of Gab's episodes, Oscar is Gab's godson that she spends a lot of time with, and who is, if you follow her on Instagram, who is absolutely adorable, and they are just too cute together.
He's kind of my best friend. I don't know.
Yeah, you guys are adorable together. Very cute.
He's such a, yeah, he's such a blessing. And I mean, Christmas is so much fun with him, although he's more into Halloween. So he's sort of like, I don't like Christmas. I like skeletons more than Santa. And I'm like, I know, but the skeletons don't bring you anything. And Santa's going to bring you some stuff. So and all he wants from Santa are rocks.
Hmm.
We're like, what do you want? He's like, rocks. And his mom's like, you're not getting rocks. I'm like, hold up. What do you want rocks for? He's like, for around my trains. So they'll have to go over rocks. I'm like, that is so clever. You're getting rocks. I'm going to go find you rocks. You will get a bag of rocks from Aunt Gabby. Count on it.
That kid is lucky to have you.
I have the mind of a child. So
I was going to say, stoke the flames of that imagination. Absolutely.
I do. I mean, I've stoked his imagination since he was so little. I remember once his grandfather said, and his grandfather has known me my whole life and has always thought I was nuts. And he was like, Deuce, I really like you. You have this kid imagining too deeply as like a 9-month-old. Like, I'm afraid it's going to affect his sanity. I'm like, you guys having him around me all the time is probably going to affect his sanity. So we're fine. But yeah,
It's all
he and I
good.
play like full blown baseball games without anything. Like we'll go to an actual baseball field and we will play, but we don't have a bat, we don't have a ball, we don't have gloves, but we play the real game and we just use our imaginations and it's so much fun.
Wow. Well, on that note, I would say we all need to be using our imaginations more for sure. And hey, because when we use our imaginations, we can picture anything, right? We can be anything. We can just
Yes.
we don't have to have the strife that we've got a lot of right now or the hatred or all the nonsense that's going on. And yeah, imagination is a pretty awesome place to be, tool to use, however we want to view it. So, well, Gab, I want to thank you so much. Like I said, we could talk forever, but I will wrap it up so that people will actually listen. Have a chance that they listen because it's a long, it's a long conversation, but I always find it to be a quality and fun conversation. Genuinely, I could bring up like a million different topics with you and I know we could keep talking and I know that we would have some really good insight. I know I would look forward to hearing your insight, but I want to thank you so much for joining me this week and for sharing what you enjoy about Christmas songs, Christmas movies, and some really valuable ideas and tips for folks out there. Remember, you don't have to, do the Hallmark Christmas if you're not feeling it this year. You do you, and remember that you're not alone. So thank you so much, Gab. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you. I love coming on and talking to you and thank you for sharing, letting me be part of your listeners and all of that. So I just really value Janine. Your friendship is definitely one of the things that I count as a blessing. So I'm really glad to talk Christmas with you today.
Thank you so much back at you. And I will tell the listeners that, of course, keep listening into the new year 2024 because Gab will be coming to Scranton. I won't tell you specifics, but I think it's pretty much a done deal. It's going to be anyway, real soon. That Gab is going to be coming here, most likely in May and sometime in the summer. And you'll hear more about it. I will definitely share it. And, if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, you know that I'll be posting about it, but you will definitely hear more from me and Gab about the upcoming ventures that we'll be working on in 2024. And I look forward to them because I know it will mean a lot of laughs, a lot of smiles, and a lot of people who will gain some great insight and perspective. And that's really really important. They need to hear from people like Gab because she's got a lot of good stuff to say. So I'm happy to have her come here to good old Northeast PA, Electric City. So we're already into December. December is an interesting month because I don't usually do all full episodes. At least I haven't the past couple of years. So I don't know what I'm doing in the coming weeks. You'll have to come back and wait and see. But I am really excited about some of the guests I've got scheduled for January. I won't tell you yet because you never know. I guess I live on the side of caution in case my one guest is a kind of high profile and a busy schedule. And just in case things happen, I won't reveal it yet. But I'm really excited about someone who's already scheduled for January and a couple other folks that I'm lining up as we speak. So it's been a great year and I'm not done yet. So come on back. And, I just want to say again, I value all of my listeners. I thank you so much. As I always say, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.